Hello class, welcome back in. I am doing a first time segment with this video here where this concept, it's not new, but it's my first time doing it. So we're going to see how this goes the first time in March, and then hopefully then for April. Well, what I'm doing here, because it's April now that you're seeing this, so why am I talking about March? I'm doing report cards for the hat retail stores out there. For all the hat stores that did drops for March for the month before, giving them a grade. So, doing a report card kind of a series here. Just something I wanted to do myself. And if it gets views, it gets views. If it doesn't, then, meh, I tried. But what I'm going to do is, now what I did was, I didn't go through every hat retailer necessarily, just some like the big ones, and even some of the big ones like I maybe didn't get to, which it's not saying that like I'm ignoring you or that you did a bad job. It's just I kind of ran out of time. I wanted to kind of do as much as I can, but also not do too much because I talk a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go in any order. I have a little spinny wheel thing on an app that I'll spin around, and whichever name comes up first, then we'll do that. So reset the wheel, and there's no order of like alphabetical or best to worst, worst to first. Just going to be random. Just going to do what I can. Now, if you don't like my grades, then please let me know in the comments down below. I don't necessarily have like a rubric for you to like follow along. It's more of like a subjective kind of view and grading. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. So get out a notebook, pen, and pencil because class. It's weird to sound. Class is in session. Let's go. All right, let's get into the spinning wheel here. And just to show, I have some of the hats out here that I got in March. Not necessarily they were released in March, but I got them in March. So that's why. Nice. 47 brand we're going to start with. So 47 brand didn't have necessarily a good start to March. They had like a weird like space kind of cheetah print themed like hat. Not the biggest fan of that, but they did recover. They had some really good. They did have some really good college hats, and that was a big theme from this year or this month. Sorry, that with March Madness, a lot of places did their college hats, and 47 Brand did a few big name teams, colleges, and it worked out really well. They did some hockey releases, which kind of seemed like, okay, I've seen hockey hats before. It's not like it's like basic hat. It's not like a specialty hat, which is fine. But they really had a good end when it was of the month when it was opening day. They released their this like two-tone franchise. It's like a cleanup hat with the unstructured crown, but it's fitted in the back. It's not a strap, and it was like a light tan, like a light cream color, and then the brim was the team color. Really great coloring, bad pricing. $40 for that franchise hat. It wasn't even like anything special that I thought. It just seemed basic. There was no like side patch to it. There's nothing else to it. So I'll get into that in another video. But for 47 brand, B+. All right, next on the list here. Fine, I guess we'll get it done early. Hat Dreams. You know, even though some other people did it, I think it's not Hat Dreams specifically, but it's them encouraging, I guess, the fact of all these closet hat collectors who are hunters secretly, that I don't know where all these hunters came from in the hat collecting world, but why are so many people getting such a hard-on for Realtree? Why are they getting hardwood for Realtree camo? Pun intended. This doesn't work. I am probably one of the few. I'll go dying on the sword, being probably then the only. I'll die on the hill by myself if need be. Probably the only person then to say that Realtree is bad. The only time I will say that it looked good was when Hat Club did it the first time, at least that I can remember in this fashion hat world, that they put it on an Orioles hat for the Blair Witch Project for their horror movie pack in the fall of 2022. That made sense. Having a D-backs hat with a Hunter orange UV makes no sense. No sense. Let me go make sure. I mean, that's was really killing Hat Dreams, and they were kind of I think a forefront that they were being paraded around. People were parading them as these Realtree hats as good. So I don't know why, because otherwise Hat Dreams had a really good month. Otherwise, if you take out the Realtree crap, they had these fantastic jersey script hats. This Orioles hat flew so fast. I didn't realize that an Orioles hat would fly that fast. Since seeing something like the Wire pack from Lids HD. But they had the Mariner. The Guardians also looked really good. Mets was okay. It's not because it's Mets and Professor Hat doesn't like the Mets. It's that it's all orange. I know that orange is a part of their coloring, but it just seems like it would be like a secondary color, or like it wouldn't be the whole hat. But it looks okay, not like the Orioles, where like the Orioles orange is their main color. Now, when they had their Realtree hat drop, they had Colt 45, they had the Diamondbacks and the Nationals. But on that same drop, they had a fantastic looking Texas Rangers plain tee, 40th anniversary side patch with the Texas State logo. It was a light blue, Columbia blue, and like a medium navy with a brim and a gray UV. If I had that hat, it would be one of my top 5 hats of the year. So if anyone has any, because that was only in the store, so if anyone can get that to me, thanks. So yeah, the Realtree really killed it, but I think that otherwise a lot of the other hats helped Hat Dreams, so I do have to be as fair as I can be. So C plus, maybe a B minus, but C plus. All right, next. For You Caps. Let me double check. For You Caps did a really good job. Well, I like that they had like a sale right before opening day. It was opening day eve, that they had like a flash 4-hour sale. I wish I got something from there, but I didn't. But like that they did that, so I'll give them points because of that for March. Because these grades aren't about just the hat, it's about the experience that a consumer, a hat collector would have when buying the hat, or a hat from their website or their store. So For You Caps followed a lot of March trends here of some good college hats, even though they did a UNC for the 2005 Final Four. and UNC should have lost to Illinois that year. I'm still not over it. I'm not going to deduct points for that, but they also did Realtree. I guess I'll give them like a little slow golf clap for putting Realtree on a 940 adjustable hat on a Colt 45 is interesting. But they did another Kinston Indian Realtree, so I gotta take some points off. But even other than that, they had some nice Diamondbacks hats that were like on field for like anniversary stuff. And C, just because it was nothing as impressive. C, I'll give it a C plus because of like the sale thing that they did. But yeah, kind of not terrible, not fantastic. So C plus. All right, next is going to be toppers on the list here, but I haven't really been paying attention to toppers a whole lot. I'll give them a B plus just for staying consistent, but there wasn't anything that maybe I've missed it. Excuse me, that would put them into an A tier. But of course, maybe it's because I'm not as taking enough initiative to get that European mailbox to have it shipped to the US for me, but it's just a big iron curtain with that difference. I know that the Toppers USA store will be coming soon-ish in May, so I think that'll be like a separate store that we'll put together then on the list here. All right, let's go next. Burdeen's was great in March. They had some restocks and they had a pre-order. They did a Ronnie Fitteds collection. I think this is like the second pack that he did with Burdeen's, and some good ones, 2 Astros, 1 Mariners, and a White Sox, and they looked great. And I knew they were gonna go really fast, so it almost seemed like a lost cause initially, but then they announced Jerry at Burdeen's said that they're going to do a pre-order, so I did get a pre-order for the White Sox. I only got 1. I should have gotten 2. Because I got 7.5, but I am kind of like in between like half and 5/8. But I went with a half because it's easier to stretch out a hat. So we'll see how that goes. They did another YouTube restock with Chicago White Sox. It was like the same look of the Chicago in script in the front, kind of like on a slant, but the creators put them as black and white for Frank Thomas, and then the other was for maroon, burgundy, and gold for USC for DeMar DeRozan on the Bulls right now. Both of those were great hats. If I really had enough disposable income, then I probably would have gotten one or both of them. Because I like the colors of the DeMar DeRozan one because I went to Concordia and those are the same colors. Or you could call it Loyola Chicago colors. But also the black and white one, just White Sox colors, simple. And for Frank Thomas, my mom's favorite White Sox and one of her favorite baseball players. So that was also a really good one. Burdeen's had a few other little things, but we'll see how they do it for April. I mean, it is April right now, but we're going to do that another time. So for them, they get an A+. All right, next up is My Fitteds. They didn't have anything wild and crazy like they kind of usually do that like sets themselves apart from the other retailers. I did like their Hershey Hershey Bears AHL hockey hat. It was okay in the retro black and blue Capitals colors. it wasn't the greatest when it was behind a password wall, and they gave the password in a clue or in a hint on their Instagram page, and after like 3-4 tries, it's like, oh, that's what it is. I didn't turn the phone around. I didn't do the. It still didn't go through. It was sold out. I guess that's fine, because I'm kind of on a budget with my hats, so I guess I should be grateful when I miss out on hats, because then it's a saving opportunity. But for them, B minus. Some other good hats, but nothing that was like. I'm glad that they didn't do Realtree, so maybe I'll bump them to a B. B minus. I'm glad they didn't do the Realtree crap. So good for you guys. Also, I will say that they did set a kind of a precedent. They kind of made a statement. There was this natural collection or a natural hat that they were going to release, but I guess people ruined it for everyone else, so they canceled everyone's orders and it was only in store. So good for My Fitteds for kind of setting that kind of that ruling, setting an example. It's very unfortunate for those who did follow the rules, but I'm glad that My Fitteds did. Of course, I'd be really pissed if I was one of them who did have that kind of order through and it got canceled. So of course, different perspective, but at least from an outside perspective, I can understand and appreciate them kind of putting their foot down. So next. All right, so for New Era, now everyone did the World Baseball Classic hats. I'm not going to there's like on-field hats. Everyone gets them. I'm not going to give New Era points for or against because of like those hats. Same thing with all the other hat retailers out there, because they kind of all get the same thing. It's like on-field hats. So for New Era, they're just cap straps are getting pretty bad lately. There's like a sand one that they're doing and like tie-dye effects, and maybe the Rockies and the Mariners looked good, but maybe I'm just stretching it to like reach for something that looks good. So the thing that, and they also did get points taken away because of the golf hats, the baseball golf hats, the one that had the like golf script, which I didn't really know that needed to be a thing. But it was also the fairground, like golf course UV that was just meh. I did like that they had Caddyshack hats, so that helps them. I missed out on the Bushwood 940 A-frame or 950 A-frame. Hopefully I can find it somewhere, which would be nice. They also had WNBA draft hats come out in March, which I will get. I wanted to get them before the draft, but at the time of recording, it's a week away. There's no chance it's going to come in time, so I'll get it for another time, maybe when I save up my own money. And maybe when the tax return comes in. So for New Era, B minus, C plus, really, C plus. All right, so next up is Still was fantastic for March. They had, I'm sure you've heard of the concept, the phrase of quality over quantity. And Still was the visual definition in March of that phrasing. They had a fantastic like little elemental pack, a Mariners, Rangers, and Braves, like Earth, Fire, and Water little pack. Great. They had like a good. Oh, let me look it up actually, because I need to be reminded of how good they were. If I'm trying to do this from memory, it's going to be really bad. The visuals help here. So the other one that I was going kind of going over that I liked was the it's called All So Simple. It was a Yankees and a Blue Jays. It was a yellow crown, navy brim, gray UV, and they were just simple colors. It wasn't like too bright of a yellow. It was a solid yellow. It wasn't like a bright blue, and it was navy, but it wasn't like a bright blue to kind of distract from the bright yellow. So it was great. They did an It hat for the I think, or no, it's called Track 2. It at least reminds me of It because it's a Montreal Expos, but has these red balloons in the background. Looked good. They had a spring drop, which was also really nice. The toothpaste Toronto one looked better than the other. They just had a lot of good, simple hats. What's also good is, even though they did a Realtree hat recently, it was back in February, so they don't get points knocked off. So for still, they get an A+ as well. Alright, so next is going to be Cool Jays. Now for Cool Jays, there were some hats that I saw that, that Mariners one looks good. Kind of wish I would have gotten it to match my Easter suit. There's a Nationals one that looked okay too, not too crazy about it, but it was not too bad. Now, the one part that I'm going to be a little critical on with my feedback that I'm sure people in the comments will say something about, which is fine, but I want that kind of engagement. I think that, and even still was doing it, so maybe I'd go from an A+ to an A, but I think the way that they did it was nice. But I think the idea of hooking hats to hip-hop and rap albums is kind of run its course. Now, they also did a hook to a Kanye West, and yes, people will say, well, we're kind of done with Kanye, but I don't know if anyone saw my video from October of 2022 when I said how, yes, at this time in October, no one knew about 4 or 5 months ago when starting production on Kanye West hooked hats, that in October that he would say all this anti-Semitic bullshit and rhetoric and just go crazy and be dropped by Adidas and kind of be blacklisted from a lot of culture stuff. But to have a Kanye, he hasn't said anything recently. He's been, I think, banned from Twitter altogether, but still don't really need a Kanye West hook. Not that Cool Jays is saying that they are agreeing or that they have a affirmation of what Kanye said. That's not the case at all. It's just a bad look, I think. Maybe. Am I over-exaggerating? Probably. But other people complain about other figures on hats or what they're hooked to. So, but I also think that with this, the hip hop and rap albums being hooked, I think we're kind of running out. But they did celebrate 50 years this year for hip hop. They had a really cool mini concert at the Grammys for hip hop. It was that cool that I was just in awe, and Jay-Z didn't even perform, just like the Super Bowl that he should have done. So maybe we should go into rock albums or some jazz. Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Dino, Ray Charles, nice Atlanta Braves hat for that one, for that hook. So I'm probably overreacting, but let me know. Cool J's, it's a C-. All right, next up, Campanova. And I put LA because they had their new store out there. But the big thing, I mean, Campanova, they have the Cincinnati store. They did like a restock on some Pixar hats, which was great. But they also had their new LA store, which I did get a Star Wars hat from their Clone Wars collection. I got the Obi-Wan Orioles. When I saw this, one, I knew I had to have it. And two, this was the best hat of the collection. That's not an opinion, that is a fact, as I am a big Star Wars nerd, and my birthday is on Star Wars Day. So I have the affirming right to make the statement that this was the best hat of that pack. There are other great hats. Not too sure how swinging Friar Tuck and Yoda meshed well together, more looked like Frankenstein. But the collection was good. They did a good job with this concept. It wasn't like a hook, it's just a concept of the colors of blue, black, and white, and putting a few teams together, and maybe like 5 or 6. Let me look back just to make sure that I'm getting this right. I'm trying to go from memory, and maybe it's not the best idea, but yeah, they did an Angels, a Giants, Yankees, Mariners, Reds, and a White Sox, sorry. Simple color ideas. The 3 same colors, but worked into different ways on the hats. Looked great. I probably would have gotten like the, maybe the Mariners, but I think that sold out, but they just looked good. So even to like put like I guess for now I'll put Campanova USA and Campanova LA together, put them all together. So they get a good A-. They had these like Matrix looking hooked hats. That's like kind of like the only knock I'll give them. But the restock for the Pixar hats, great. I wish I was able to get them, but I think they were dropped on a Sunday, and Sunday they're just impossible days for me to do things while I'm at work. So Campanova USA/LA, I think for April I'll do it separately, or maybe together. Let me know if I should put them together. A-. Next up, Anthem with another great one. I'm really hoping that they still have the one hat that I saw with the this Angels, kind of like a stone crown, mahogany, brown brim, mint, light teal, UV. It was fantastic. Last I checked, it was still in 5/8, which might be a little bit big, but half would be perfect. So hopefully I can still get that if it's still around, but Anthem otherwise had other great hats that I want to look back at. They did a really good job. Also not having Realtree camo crap. Otherwise they had a good Mariners black hat, which again, if I had more money, it's like the Fiddler on the Roof, if I were a rich man, I'd buy all the hats I could. And it just looked good. There was a Brooklyn Bacon hat. They were also good with this concept of quality over quantity. I think Still might have done that concept better, but they did also a good job. So they get an A+ maybe, but in that upper A echelon territory. They did great. All right, next. I know I'm going kind of longish here, but Crown Legends. I'm pretty sure they were another one that did the. Let me just make sure I'm thinking that they didn't do as much Realtree but they did it. So I gotta give them. I mean, they had some other good hats. There was like it was brown crown, rhymes. Brim was the team color and a gray UV. And it was just kind of colors that would usually pop from the brown. Red Sox, Orioles, Pirates, Yankees, the Navy blends in, but it still worked. Mariners, Rockies. So they kind of covered all the different colors except for green. Well, teal, I guess you could count as a green or the blue. But they're bright colors. They worked. But of course, I just got to take some points off for the Realtree camo crap. Other than that, they were okay. So, I mean, the Realtree got so bad that they made it into a pre-order. I mean, that's how. And then they had the Boston Red Sox has like this like cascading effect again. Just maybe it's been overdone. So they get a C plus for March. All right, next up is going to be here. I didn't do anything for them. I didn't do anything for them either. Crown Minded did a good job too. They did college hats. They also did like a crossover. Texas Rangers in a Texas University Longhorn burnt orange, not orange, burnt orange. It's a iconic name for orange. Did a good job with that. I don't like Texas Longhorns. Horns down, however you do it. Florida Marlins and Gators was good. They had a great month. Let me just remind myself here that they had some restocks. They did a cool Round Rock Express hat that I didn't really realize I would need, but it looked cool. Round Rock Express is a minor league team out in Texas. They have a big famous donut shop there. They have like a donut like as big as your head. It would have been nice to have gotten for the price point. I just wasn't okay with it. It's not a team that I really need. It just would have been nice. The Round Rock Express logo, the E with the cow catcher railing in the front, like on an old style train, was inspiration for a logo I asked Full Count Studios to design for me for my hometown in Mount Prospect. So a nice hat. They did a lot of other like college related hats, either related hats or college hats themselves. So it was a good month for them. So they got an A. I like what they did. Next up, I'm gonna try to do like a lightning round here. Sports World 165. They are the student. Well, here, I'm scrolling through Instagram. I see this one hat, this Rockies hat, and it was like good colors, it's like a navy crown and then maroon brim. I think it was a peach UV too, like weird coloring, but I'm like, this looks nice. Who is this? Sports World 165. You guys are still around? I forgot about you guys. They did a good job. I liked their sunshine hat pack. It was like if you remember like the Arctic peach that Lid HD did, it was like the same light blue crown. They did a green or teal and a peach brim and a peach UV, like a gold lettering or logo on the front. It was good. They didn't do a whole lot. There were still some other things where it's like, oh, that's exactly why I forgot about Sports World 165. But they shocked me, so I'm gonna give them the B plus. So that's what I like. Next up, we're going to Clark Street Sports. they did. There was a color that they did with a Cubs and a White Sox. It was like the Wizards colors. It was that Wizards blue. If you can think of like the Jordan era of the Wizards for those like 2-3 years, it was weird. A black brim, gray UV, and then like some like copper-ish stitching accents with the white logo. Great coloring. Hat Dreams did it also this past March, but it's also been done by some other places. I think it's getting to this point of oversaturation. That's what I'm thinking for myself, but maybe other places can do it, or maybe other teams can do it. Because the only place I think that would make sense to do it would be White Sox, for Jordan being part of the organization for a few seasons or 2 years. Cubs because of Chicago. Nationals because it's in DC where he played. And that's really about it. Because there's no MLB team out in North Carolina where he grew up or went to school. So, or where the Hornets, the team he owns, is. So, but Collector Sports also did a nice Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Daytona Tortuga hat. A lot of other places have done the TMNT hats and did it usually like for the brothers, like the red for Raphael, orange for Michelangelo, purple for Dante, and blue for Leonardo, the best one, of course, because he had the 2 swords and he was like the leader. But this one was like just like a plain like turtle color, which it worked. I liked it. So Clark Street Sports gets a B+ from me. Next is Sneaker Town. I didn't write anything down for them. Liz HD. I did see this kind of this collection where it was like this like Vegas-ish gold, and I saw a St. Louis Browns logo. It looked great. Now, what made me decide to run away from it was the camo brim. That's what killed it. The Munfu collection, it had some good teams, but because it had the camo brim, it looked ugly. It just ruined it. So for me, that was a hat collection that I would say was an easy way to save $50. They did Playboy hats for the Year of the Rabbit for the Chinese calendar, which made sense. They did a really good job with their March Madness hats. Those sold out so fast. So that is what saved them. So I'll give them the B-, generous B-, but the Munfu collection really held it down. There was like a cherry collection too at the beginning of March, which was okay-ish. Nothing too stand out really. Next up is Hatstop. Great hats for bad teams. I'm just not the fan of the Mets and the Houston, the Colt 45s. But they did some other good hats for colleges, for the University of Washington. So what they did, gave it a solid B. A few things where it's like, it's kind of a pass, but this is a solid B. Solid B. Next up, Cap USA. Let me see if I wrote anything down for them. I think I did. And for them, oh yeah, they were the ones that had this light blue, denim blue coloring brim and green UV with a Braves script on the front, 95 World Series. That was a really good hat from them for the month. Everything else was meh. So C+. Just because everything else was, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like they had like, this was more of like a true nothing was impressive. It wasn't that like you had the Realtree camo to like bring it down. Just a few more to go here, about 4 or 5. Lids, I'm not gonna do anything for them. I know I didn't like make like a post about this, but I'm going to give actually Lids a ceremonious, symbolic F minus minus minus, because March was when it was the anniversary, March 19th, of the fall and the decimation of Lids, when they merged with Fanatics and told fucking no one about it. I go on this rant a whole lot of times, and yet the hat world and community has not been given an apology from Lids because of their miscommunication. They took the same communication class in college as my ex did, so which was none. So I'll give them the symbolic F minus whatever I said, total failure grade, 0% then. Just for the what we have to deal with still 4 years. 4 years later? Yeah, 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. 2019. So, yep, when still waiting. Still waiting. Also waiting for that interview discussion that TED Talk will have, the classroom discussion will have with the Lids president and CEO. So still waiting for that to happen. All right, next up, I had scrolled through Pro Image. Not another good place. It was my first time buying with Pro Image in March. Not a great experience. So that's really gonna hit them for. It's gonna be a personal hit. Yes, I'm going to be a little bit biased with this grade, but I have to be. Like I said before, the grade isn't just based off the hats. It's also based on the experience that someone would have. So I did get this Twins in wild colors, but the one that I wanted was this. So the Cubs the coloring was okay. It was like a navy brim and like a gray, navy crown, gray brim. It was okay looking, but the side patch was it was like an aerial view of Wrigley Field. Something a true Cubs fan like myself would deserve to have in the collection, that I would give it a good home. So, but the website, I did make an account beforehand, so I was prepared, but I wasn't prepared for the fact that the website wouldn't work with Chrome the way I expected it to, like to know my address for autofill, or to autofill my credit card info instead of having to try to memorize it. I didn't have it on me at the time, so I didn't get it. So whoever did get it, I hope you gave it a good home. So, but yeah, I had to take the points off for that. But they also did Realtree. They also did Realtree camo crap. So that's also points taken away. So I gotta set the example. That they just did a bad job that way. So what I'm also kind of perplexed with is how, with hat retailers, how are they actually thinking that this Realtree is good in the cities or in the urban areas or the suburbs even, that hat collectors are usually getting these hats, or they live usually. So why are they thinking that hat collectors actually want this? But also, why is it that hat collectors are buying these hats, and these influencers and like groups are saying and giving the feedback that to the retailers that they're good hats? Like, both of you, knock it off. These aren't good. Whatever. So, Pro Image, D+. yeah. Last one is going to be Hat Club. They just get an F. They get an F in terms of, like, and really, they did corduroy hats, which, and they didn't do it well. Granted, I'm not a corduroy person myself, so that's also maybe a bias problem, but it just didn't look good. And kind of getting into the warmer months now and the warmer seasons, no one's really going to be wearing a lot of corduroy in the summertime necessarily. They did a redrop of the Cookies and Cream 2.0, which looked terrible. I wish that was the April Fool's Day joke. Even their April Fool's Day hats looked better than some of their hats that they actually dropped. There was a Washington Nationals top hat. That would have been so cool to have. Even the Cubs hat with a little propeller on the top. That would have been cool to have. They did Northern Lights again, which maybe it's just not that impressive. I mean, they look fine, but just rehashing. Woodlands hats were fine, but maybe just not the right time of year. It just wasn't good for Hat Club, I think. So that's March for the grade. Of course, let me know in the comments down below your thoughts. Did I grade fairly? Was I too nice to a certain place? For this month, the honor roll students belong to, not that they're in like any like ranking, but the honor roll students here belong to Anthem, Still, Berdines, and Capanova. They did great jobs for their hats for the month. And Crown Minded. Let me redo the honor roll here. Still, Anthem, Crown Minded, Berdines. Capanova, kind of like an honorable mention honor roll. Great hats, but also that they did some restocks that was not as original. But those are some of the better of the hats from March, hat retailers from March. So let me know who you thought was one of the better hat retailers of March, and who do you think is going to have a bounce back or a fall down in April, maybe. So I'll see you in April for the new report card. This isn't a new concept to have this like macro view of the hat retailers. It's just what I wanted to do, kind of to fill a void. I will see you the next time, and as always, thank you for watching. Hats off to you as always for watching, because this went pretty long as usual. I will see you next time in class, everyone. Hopefully with a less squeaky chair. That's what we get. Class is dismissed. Bye, everyone.